On the cutting edge of anomaly research, you are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, D.W. Gannett.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of Mars X3D, The Evidence. This is your buddy Dave, and wow, we've got a lot going on this last couple of weeks. The reason I'm calling this a special edition is because in this one we're going to rip back the curtain that NASA puts over all of its images. Now, this is a process that was developed by Alan Walker over at Mars, the second Genesis. And what Alan recognized in NASA images, since he is a 30-plus year expert and professional in Photoshop, he began to recognize, as he got into anomaly hunting, just exactly what NASA was doing with obfuscating and layering and hiding what was in the images that were coming back, particularly from Perseverance, from Percy. And what he did, Alan recognized that there were layers and layers and layers of what are called luminance layers and partially opaque layers and rockifying or texture mapping of the main features so that nothing was recognizable except for my specialty, which is non-fractal imaging. And we'll get into that in just a minute. So what Alan has done is back engineered the NASA images to really get at what was being hidden. Let me show you what I mean. Here's an image that comes straight down from Perseverance. This is part of a huge pan that Alan made. And then as he applied his process to the images, this is what he came up with. Now, right now to you, it just looks like a jumble of black and white. But really what's happening here is that what's underneath is being revealed. And with non-fractal imaging, as I've said many times before, that's the mathematics of intelligent agency. And so, when we go into these black and white images that result from Alan's disclosure-exposure process, we find a multitude of structures and anomalies that they're purposely hiding from us. Now, I understand if some of you are skeptical. Skepticism is good. We should all be walking question marks, as it were, to question everything that we're seeing, especially from so-called official sources. But also anything that I present or any other anomaly hunter. It's okay to be skeptical. And so the first question that the skeptic would ask is that, well, that's just a byproduct. That is only a byproduct of this process. But let me explain something. Again, you cannot get non-fractal mathematics from random, chaotic pixels. It's not possible. So let me take one picture that one of our viewers sent in, and this is a desert scene out in Arizona. And now here is Alan's rendering of it using the exact same process. Do you see any anomalies in there? I don't. So let's try another one. Here is an image of swans that Alan took. And now here's that same image subjected to his process. Do you see any anomalies in this image? I don't. So what I'm doing is I am buying into this process as legitimate until someone can, with at least Alan's level of professional experience, prove otherwise. These images take a lot of time and work for Alan Walker to process, and an equal amount of time for me to extract whatever 3D data I can get from the images so a presentation like this can be offered to you. So this will be a once in a while proposition. But for now, let's jump in to Alan Walker's exposure disclosure process as we rip back the curtain. We're going to start out today with some odds and ends that I found using Alan's process. And, I have no idea what most of these things are, but they're definitely not natural. Now, this image by itself in the undisclosed standard view is pretty strange with that triangle and that square and that hexagon in front of the triangle. There's something going on there, but what exactly is it? So, is this natural erosion? Well, I really don't think so. And this isn't the best example, but I wanted to get you started off, kind of ease you into it, because there's a lot of weirdness in this pan of Percy 128. So here's a rather innocuous image. And we're going to take a look at what they've done with rockifying, so-called texturing the rocks, and hiding behind the semi-transparent sand layers that they've put into this. In particular, take a good look at these 3 items inside the white target boxes, because they're not what they appear to be. See what I mean? And in particular, how about those right-angled lines, almost like 2 paddocks or little staging areas or something? I mean, how does that happen? 2 of them almost identical. But let's take a closer look at each one of these 3 odd items. With the layers removed, we can see now that this almost looks like a shattered jet engine or some kind of machine. It's got a cutout, it's got innards, it's got a very purposeful shape, it's got those rivets on the front. I mean, this is not a rock. And of course, look at the items surrounding it as well. Let's check out that second one. Same deal here. I mean, this looks more mechanical than natural to me over there on the left. That rounded piece with the square back, even thickness throughout. It looks like some kind of mechanism or something that's been formed for a purpose, to my eyes. Now, I get it if you think this is just a rock and I'm being a little too overexcitable. Yeah, I get that. But I've spent many years looking at these things, and my eyes kind of know when they're seeing something that doesn't belong there. How about you? And what about this thing? It looks like a worn down cube to my eyes. On the left side of it, it looks like a blank screen, like on a monitor. You've got those 3 rivets on the front face and the various extrusions, things sticking out on top, and over on the right side of it, what almost looks like an alternator or something like that, attached to the side. Not a rock. And before we leave, did you notice this little bit of strangeness down there in the right-hand corner? It's awfully symmetrical to my eyes. I have no idea what it is, but again, I have to say, I don't believe it is a rock. Here's another grouping of a couple items that, looking at this image, you can't even tell they're there. But let's pull the curtain back on this one. Certainly not what I expected to see. Right there in the very center. Again, that looks like a machine to me. That round, whatever it is, with a rim, cooling fins maybe, sitting on a bit of a platform, and to the left of it, whatever that is, curved up and spiky on the left side. And, really, as you look around in all of these disclosed images, you're going to find a whole lot of things that I haven't pointed out. Because otherwise, this video will be like 3 hours long, and who wants to do that? But keep your eyes peeled as we move forward, because you're going to see a whole bunch of things that we don't even mention. Here's another one that really does look pretty innocuous until you actually strip aside all the stuff they've put over it. And just before we do that, make a mental note of that rock down in the lower left corner inside the white circle. Here again, that large boulder seems less like a rock and more like a crumpled mass of twisted machinery. You can see all the right angles, various tubes, and other shapes that really don't seem to belong there. And but then again, remember that rock in the lower left-hand corner? That looks a little different too, doesn't it? Let's take a closer look. Well, this certainly doesn't look like the original image. It kind of looks like a fat moccasin. It's got an opening in the top. It's got that little round sphere on the edge. And, I named this a little shoe man to get out in front of all those so-called anomaly hunters who insist that every single thing they see is a miniature Martian. I don't know what this is, but it's not alive, in my opinion, and it's not a Martian, in my opinion. But it is also not a rock. This next bit of strangeness is also quite well hidden. Do you see anything sticking out at you there? Because I don't. How about now, inside the white box? I shaded it green so you can see it just a bit easier, and now I'm going to pull the shading off. So we have what looks like a nice little submarine or some kind of craft with a porthole and a couple of spheres on top and sitting under a nice square overhang as if it was being sheltered. Is that what this is? Probably not. But here again, you can see the light shining off of it. So it seems to be metallic. And that hole and whatever's in it, how does that come about? That's just not sand, and it's just not what they showed you in the original image. Whatever it is, they don't want you to see it. And here are a few more oddities that I dug up before we turn our eyes to things that are definitely man-made, so to speak. Now, I'm using man with quotes in it. But first of all, let's have a look at these strange little items. Is it a turbine, a wheel housing, or some other mechanical fragment? I don't know. But we see a lot of things in this particular pan that appear to be buried machines and various settlements or structures, which we'll get to in just a minute. This image is about 2 to 3 kilometers away, way up near the top of the mountainside, and as you can see, I've bumped the contrast on this standard view, and you can see there's some kind of stuff in there inside the box. But normally I wouldn't even stop to take a second look at this. But here it is with all the silliness removed. Do any of you want to hazard a guess as to what these might be? Bearing in mind that they're 2 to 3 kilometers away. These things are big. These are big structures. I don't know if they're meant to have beings inside of them, whether they're machines, whether they're some kind of monitoring equipment. You'll notice that it's sitting on a flat area, almost that it's been scraped out for it. So who knows? Let's get in just a little bit closer. And even though we can't really assign any ironclad meaning to these two items, it is clear that NASA does not want us to see it for whatever reason. Okay, now I'm going to share 5 or 6 what I call settlements with you, things that have structures, that have roads, that have assorted items about it that just make them look like villages or compounds or a place where research work is being done. And again, not much to see in this particular image, is there? That rock on the end on the right is kind of square, isn't it? But other than that, not much. Until we rip the curtain back and suddenly we see a whole bunch of stuff that was invisible before. I'm going to be highlighting and zooming in on this particular one, so here we go. Let's start with what appear to be roads or pathways that I've highlighted in green. And you'll notice that not only are all of them just as absolutely straight as an arrow, but they're all the same width. Now, how does that happen with sand? I can understand maybe one, but a whole bunch like this? I don't think so. I've highlighted in purple those areas that I think are structures or walls. Let your eyes play over this for just a moment and we'll get a little bit more detailed. Closest to us on the right is a large rectangular, or square actually, block type of building with hemispheres on the right side, the shaded side, and more of them on the left side, and very clear right angles. Even looks like it has a dome of some kind on top of it. Off to the right, what look like tents or machine sheds, and to the left as well, and in back, other smaller structures. Now I'm going to highlight the corners. If you're having trouble seeing this, I'm going to highlight them and then back right out. Those are the main visible non-fractal lines outlined in blue. And back to the original zoom, and as you recall, there's a lot more to this area, so let's have a look at that as well. To the left and behind that main facility is what appears to be a walled area, a very large walled area, and as you can see as you look around, there are lots of structures inside of it and around it. Now I'm going to highlight the walls and the pathway just so you can see them a bit more clearly. See what I mean? And by the way, did you notice this area over there on the left? And this is a hyper zoom, which is why it's so blurry, but you can easily see that there's what looks like a bridge or maybe a viaduct, an aqueduct maybe, with a clear archway that's outlined and just a ton of structure to it. And as you look around, yeah, blurry, as you look around, you can see what appear to be other structures and walls all around it. Here's another area that I call a settlement inside the green box, and you can see in the standard view that there are right angles. There are any number of right angles, but there's just no detail. And so typically I would make a note of this, but pass along on it, because I want things that are detailed and that I can get closer to and put them in front of your eyes better than just what this represents. But we pull the curtain back, suddenly we have walls, pinnacles, structures of all kinds all over the place. What is this? Well, I'm not even going to guess, except this was purposely built. Here's another one, and once again, when you look inside the target area, you can see parallel lines, you can see right angles, you can see things that might possibly be structures, but it's also very indistinct, and it'd be very easy just to write it off as more sand and rocks. But then when you pull the layers away, you can see that it's a structure of some kind, walls that meet at a 90-degree angle. And it almost looks like the side facing us are two long cylinders. I'm not familiar with that kind of construction. Not sure why it would look like that. But it is definitely, and of course look in the background too. You see more things that could well be structures. You see a lot of spurious shapes and curves and other things which is just enough undefined you can't really say for sure, but a pretty suspicious area nonetheless. Here's another standard view where I bump the contrast up a good bit, and you can see what looks like a cross inside the box. Now, in the normal view, this is just only very faintly visible. So there's definitely something going on there. We just don't know what it is. You know, as I look at this, it really does remind me of a strip mine. And let me highlight a few things for you, and then we'll come back to this image so you can play with it a bit. The main pathways have been marked in kind of an orange color there. And bearing in mind now, this is like 2 or 3 miles away from the rover. So these are big earthworks, or Marsworks as the case may be. You'll notice at the very top of the orange that there's kind of a clover leaf. And then as you come down, and of course right angles, and as you come down the path and cross the big pit, just on the other side, in the middle, do you see the double arched bridge that goes over that path? And coming on down to the very end, it makes a sharp turn to the left, and to the left once again, and then it curves around to the right to take you down to the next level. And this is exactly what we do in the various pit or strip mines that we do here on Earth. Then over there in the blue, you'll see what may be pipes or other structures, huts of some kind, you know, all those spheres connected to each other. Who knows what it is, but this is a big operation. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the normal view, and you can look around a little bit and see some of the other things that I didn't mention. This is an amazing image, and here's the point. They're going to a lot of trouble to hide all this evidence of not only an ancient civilization, or civilizations plural, but also what may be current activity on the planet of Mars. They don't want us to see it, and they go to a great deal of trouble to keep it hidden from us. But as a rational person, I'm assuming that's what you are, looking at this evidence, how can you not say that these are intelligent structures, things made with intelligent agency? In any case, let's move on. And once again, this standard view just really doesn't reveal too much. Inside of the green box, we do see what is probably a right angle area, but that's about it. Zooming way in and inside the green dashed line, you can see what looks like structures. Well, condos. And we're going to zoom in even further. First, I'm going to highlight the area in magenta just so you know where to look. And now let's go to the regular view. As you let your eyes play over this area, you can see openings, windows, doors, maybe even a staircase up there on the upper right. Different levels, pathways. I mean, this is definitely, to my way of thinking, living quarters for a large group of people. Or it's just a really fantastic rock formation. Here's one I found really interesting. And once again, I mean, you look inside the target area and, well, there's some funny shapes in there, but again, not much to see, is there? Now, to me, this is really an amazing image, and there's an awful lot to see in it, and we're going to zoom in a little bit and kind of focus on the main things, the highlights. And as we get closer, you yourself can see all the things that are in this image. So let's pick out just a few. How about these two pipes coming out from underneath the shelf? Bearing in mind, once again, 2 to 3 kilometers away, these are big items. Down here on the lower right, some very large rectangular structures. And did you notice what appear to be large carved shapes in this area? And I think one of my favorite things in this image is what appear to be stairs inside the green target area. Now, obviously, if this is 2-3 kilometers away, I mean, those aren't stairs. but there's some kind of regular placement of ridges all the same length and width, and ascending the very steep cliff up to the top of that sprocketed area. Then, of course, there's this thing, and I don't know what that is. I mean, could be a turbine of some kind. It's huge. It's a dome. It has structure on top. And again, as you look around this image, you're going to see a lot more than I've just pointed out. And here is yet another settlement. You know, it's my understanding in archaeology that sand doesn't arrange itself in right angles in nature. That when you perceive right angles like we're seeing here, that speaks to an underlying structure, but whether it's a wall or a building or whatever it may be, sand doesn't naturally take this shape. So we do have that clue inside the white target area of something hiding. And as you can see, when we strip away the layers, we have not only a structure but an entire compound, if you will, a whole area full of what appear to be collapsed structures and smaller buildings and debris and that type of thing. The back of that main structure has what appear to be doorways or openings or portals in them, and another head of it to the left in back as well. As we get a little bit closer to the main structure, this will give you a chance to let your eyes roam around a bit and pick out some of the odd little details scattered about this particular area of the picture. As we move to the left and look to the rear of this compound area, you can see that there's a lot of things here that are kind of hard to explain. Particularly on that hill rising in back, we see a roundish object with what look like portals in it. And as you come down from that, about 4 o'clock position, another long tube with a hole or porthole in it, maybe. And cubes, rectangles, circles, wherever you happen to let your eye rest in this image, you're going to see something that suggests that these are ruins. And this is too close by far. It's blurry and just really not a very good image, except that I wanted to move in on that dome with portals around the edge. Now, is that a building, a craft? I have no idea. And if you look at a 2 o'clock position up from it, there's a perfect sphere reflecting the sunlight near the top of that crest. And of course other things as well. But let's move on to something a bit more clear. This video has been longer than is customary, so let's wrap things up today with something I really like. Inside that green target area, we have a right-angled road and what looks like a boulder sitting there, but let's pull the curtain back. So here we are once again with an arrow straight road or pathway that is the same width all along its length, and over there on the right side it makes a sharp right angle turn, and there appear to be structures nearby. So let's break this down a bit and see what we have. Let's start by highlighting the road or pathway in purple so you can see very clearly what I'm talking about. For example, what do we have here? Now this thing is quite large. Tubular, almost looks like, I don't know, a rocket or something lying on its side with 2 portholes and kind of a sawfish bill on the left side, and then another structure to the left of that I really don't know what to call it, but there's more. Doing a tight zoom on the area where that wall or road or whatever that is takes a sharp right angle. We look to the left, and you know, it really does look to my eyes like those are collapsed structures and not a geological formation. I mean, just look at the shapes involved, the way that they're arranged. How does that occur naturally? Well, we've run about twice as long as we usually do, but I just felt it was important for you to have a look at this new process and some of the really amazing anomalies it reveals. Check down in our description below for links to Alan's channel, Mars the Second Genesis, and don't forget our live hangs on Tuesday nights, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming discoveries, some wide-ranging discussion, and more than a little fun. We'll be back next week with brand new anomalies, some amazing things in the pipelines. I think you're going to like them. And for those of you who would like to help keep this channel afloat, even $1 a month goes a long ways towards that goal. My sincere gratitude goes out to all our patrons and our contributors. Thank you for your generous support. Meanwhile, if you saw something you liked, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It helps me to know whether to continue this work. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell. And to all you proud weirdos out there, you know who you are. Stay safe and stay weird. This is your buddy Dave, over at Mars X3D. Be well.